5 seconds. Well, that is all it takes. A child looks at a screen. Another looks at a shelf. Once, those shelves stretched for miles. They were a universe of color. They were a universe of plastic. They were a universe of dreams. They were Toys R Us, a name that was more than a store. It was a promise of joy, a promise of play. Now, for many, it is just a memory, a ghost in an empty big box store. How did a titan fall so hard, so fast? This is not just a story about a failed business. It is a story about change. It is a story about missed chances. A cautionary tale in the bright, fading colors of a childhood dream. Imagine a single toy box. Once, the world filled that box. Every holiday, every birthday. Now, the box sits in the attic. It holds memories, but it is no longer being filled. The story of Toys R Us begins not with a bang, but with a baby. In 1948, a young man named Charles Lazarus returned from military service. He saw a world booming with new families. The post-war baby boom was in full swing. Those children needed things: cribs, strollers, diapers. So, he opened a small shop in Washington, D.C. It was called Children's Supermart. Parents would buy the essentials, but what truly brought them joy was buying a toy for their child. Lazarus realized the toys he sold were a revolving door. Children would break them or outgrow them quickly. Parents would always come back for more. What if there was a store dedicated only to toys? Not a small section, but a massive, overwhelming, dedicated space for play. He adapted the supermarket model and applied it to the world of toys. He wanted high volume, low margins, and a shopping cart full of fun. In 1957, he opened the first true Toys R Us. The name was quirky, memorable, with its backward R meant to look like a child wrote it. The store itself was a revolution. Lazarus built a cathedral of play. He filled aisle after aisle with dolls, board games, trucks, and everything in between. It was a warehouse of wonder, open year-round, a destination. Through the 60s and 70s, as families moved to the suburbs, Toys R Us followed. It perfected its model, buying in enormous volumes to sell toys for less than almost anyone else. By the 1980s and early 1990s, Toys R Us was not just a company. It was a cultural institution. The brand's jingle, "I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid," and Geoffrey the Giraffe were iconic. Going to Toys R Us was a rite of passage, a reward for good grades, the main event of a birthday weekend. The company's dominance was absolute. It had become a category killer. Local mom-and-pop stores couldn't compete on selection or price. It could make or break a new toy. Success bred expansion. The company went public and grew at a blistering pace across the US and abroad: Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, Japan. It also diversified. Kids R Us and Babies R Us. At its zenith, it seemed unstoppable. Inside, the magic was palpable. Action Figure Avenue, Doll Drive, bikes in gleaming rows, games blinking and beeping. For decades, a finely tuned machine, moving boxes from warehouse to shelf to shopping cart. The undisputed leader atop its toy-filled throne. No kingdom lasts forever. Big box discounters realized toys were a magnet. They could undersell on toys to drive foot traffic. Toys R Us could not. In 1995, Amazon was founded. Few took it seriously. It grew fast and moved into toys. Toys R Us was slow to recognize the magnitude of the digital shift. Its expertise was real estate, logistics, and in-store merchandising. The internet was a foreign language. In the year 2000, facing e-commerce pressure, Toys R Us made a decision. A 10-year exclusive. Amazon would be the sole online seller of Toys R Us toys. In theory, perfect. In reality, a Trojan horse. It taught shoppers to go to Amazon for interface, fast shipping, and service. Amazon learned which toys sold, who bought them, and at what price, taught by the industry leader. Then, third-party sellers appeared. Toys R Us sued, but the damage was done. For crucial years, it had no direct online presence and fell far behind. In 2005, under pressure from Walmart, Target, and Amazon, the company went private. Bought for $6.6 billion in a leveraged buyout, saddled with massive debt. Interest payments ate hundreds of millions, starving innovation and store refreshes. The in-store experience, the differentiator, was allowed to decay. The magic faded, trapped fighting a 21st century war with 20th century tools and a mountain of debt. Section 7. The magic fades, a slow and painful decline. Debt, competition, and neglect created a vicious cycle. As stores became less appealing, fewer customers came, sales declined, and reinvestment dried up. Morale plummeted. Staffing was cut, lines grew, help vanished. Hot toys sold out, unpopular ones gathered dust, poison for a toy store. While it focused on boxes, play moved to screens, smartphones, tablets, cinematic games, and YouTube unboxings. Stores offered little interactive digital experience. Marketing missed Instagram and Facebook parents. Smaller formats, pop-ups, loyalty tweaks, small gestures versus massive problems. Crushing debt, outdated stores, a weak website, and relentless rivals remained unsolved. The question was no longer if it would fall, but when. In September 2017, weighed down by over $5 billion in debt, Toys R Us filed for Chapter 11. It promised to restructure and reinvest. A glimmer of hope that didn't last. Spooked suppliers demanded cash up front, creating critical holiday shortages. Sales plummeted. Lenders lost faith. The lifeline was cut. In March 2018, it moved to liquidate all 735 U.S. stores. Over 30,000 jobs lost, many with no severance. Section 9. Lessons from the Giraffe. Rebuilding in the aftermath. Its collapse offers clear, powerful lessons for any leader in any industry. The first and most vital lesson: never stop innovating. Success can create complacency. Toys R Us built a perfect model for the 1970s and believed it would last forever. The world changed. It underestimated the internet. It underestimated its competitors. While leverage can fuel growth, too much can be a death sentence. The buyout burden starved the cash needed to evolve and compete. It forced short-term survival over long-term vision. Leaders must manage balance sheets with care. Financial engineering is no substitute for a healthy, forward-looking strategy. In an age of one-click buying, the physical store must offer something more: an experience, entertainment, expertise, a sense of community. Toys R Us let its wonderlands decay into warehouses. Forgetting the customer's emotional connection was a fatal error. Today, the story is not completely over. New owners attempt a comeback. Smaller stores inside other retailers, and a better online experience. It left a question that echoes in boardrooms and classrooms. How does a category killer end up killed by the category it created? The answer is complex. Debt, technology, a failure to see the future. This is a story of ascension and of loss. Slow, painful decay behind a smiling giraffe. We will journey back to one man's vision. We will see the empire he built, then stand at the turning point. And we will watch, step by misstep, as the giant stumbled and collapsed. For every CEO staring at a balance sheet. For every entrepreneur with a bold plan. For every parent who remembers those automatic doors. The silence in empty aisles speaks volumes. It warns no empire is forever. Success is not a destination, but a vigilant journey. Look at the world not as it is, but as it will be. The future always arrives, ready or not. What we build for children must evolve with the world they inherit. The next chapter belongs to those who keep learning.